Welcome to the Church in the Wild podcast. You'll be hearing the words from worship from Sunday, August 24th, 2025, where we discuss trees and their connection to the divine. If you want to learn more about Church in the Wild and all of our upcoming events and programs, just go to churchinthewild.org. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Barb. For this week about trees, I'm running out of tree talk, but I looked into tree worship, and I found out that the Hindus, I'm sure there's others, but the Hindus in India have a strong tradition of tree worship, and they have very specific trees that are more sacred than others. There's a huge list of trees that they hold sacred, but there's a few that are higher up on the list, more sacred than others. So personally, I don't know. I know very little. I know more than I did 3 days ago, but about Hinduism. But I need a little background on three of their most important deities to understand the role in their sacred trees, because they keep always mentioning these three when they're talking about these trees. So maybe you already know this, but I did not. So Brahma is their creator god. He's responsible for the creation of the cosmos, and they don't actually include him in worship so much anymore because his work is pretty much done. Creation has happened. But Hindu priests are called Brahmins because of him, and if you've ever heard of Brahmin bulls, it's also because of him. Vishnu is the preserver god. He protects the universe and maintains order. And the cool thing about Vishnu is that when the cosmic order is threatened, Vishnu actually comes to Earth in the physical form of avatars to right the wrongs, like a superhero. And Krishna is one of those avatars. There's a whole bunch, but Krishna is one of the more famous, or well-known, I should say, of the avatars that comes. It's a form of Vishnu. And then Shiva, is the destroyer, but in a good way. He's the destroyer or the transformer who recreates the universe from time to time when necessary. So when things get bad, Shiva kind of wipes the slate clean so that things can start fresh and be improved. So those are the three that are also very closely tied to the trees. So there's several trees that are sacred in the Hindu tradition. I'm only going to talk about two. And one of the most worshipped trees is a type of fig tree called the peepul tree. And it's P-E-E-P-U-L. Sometimes it's spelled P-A-L, but the peepul tree. And Lord Vishnu, the preserver god, identifies with this tree in ancient sacred texts. He states in the text that of all the trees, I am the holy fig tree. So this tree is huge, and it's got large branches that spread way out in all directions. If you get a chance to look it up online, they're nothing like what we see around here. And adding to its spiritual feel, the leaves rustle even when there's no breeze. So it can be as still can be, and the leaves are rustling. So there's probably a practical reason for that, because they have very long stalks on the leaves, and the leaves are heavy, so it doesn't really take much to have them rustling. But hey, it's also adds an air of mystery to the trees, and you know, I like the fact that they're rustling in the stillness. The roots of the tree are associated with Lord Brahma, the trunk with Vishnu, and the leaves with Shiva. So anyone worshiping this tree will receive blessings from all three lords. And it's also a sacred tree in the Buddhist religion, because Lord Buddha is believed to have received his,
That's where he sat down.
Yes, exactly. He received his enlightenment under the peepul tree. So because of that, it also goes by the name the Bodhi tree of enlightenment. So obviously it would be very bad if anyone cut down or harmed one of these trees containing the three gods and having all of that relationship with Buddha as well. The other highly revered tree is also a fig tree. Do we have fig trees here? We must.
Not in New York.
No, I know that, but I don't know. Well, California, that's true, California. Apparently there's a lot of fig trees in India. The other it's called the banyan tree, which I've definitely heard of that. And it has trunks that are made up of these huge tangled roots called prop roots. They're like, if you look a picture up of them, they're like roots, but they're going up the trunk of the tree like props, going all the way around it. And it's a really interesting looking trunk. And that tree also is believed to represent those same three gods as the people tree. And because of the way its branches spread and its roots spread, it's a symbol of life and fertility. And people wanting to have children make pilgrimages to banyan trees to worship the banyan and ask for fertility. So there's a list of trees, like I said. There's trees that are worshipped for their healing properties. There's one that's believed to have this, contain this one god that does healing. There's trees that take away grief, specifically, and trees that bestow long, happy marriages to couples. Hindus see the structure of trees in general as connecting the underworld to the earth's surface and then to the heavens above. And because of that, any offering made to trees can find its way to all three worlds. The Hindu scriptures include warnings about harming trees. They state that trees are not to be uprooted or cut because they protect animals, birds, and other living things. And they believe also that those very sacred trees are physical manifestations of divine beings. So also that's a big reason not to harm them. So sometimes trees have to be cut, even the most sacred trees, for safety reasons. But when that happens, the person doing the cutting asks first for forgiveness from the tree. Often they take a cutting from the tree to plant it somewhere else so that the tree continues its life. And they also usually plant a new tree to take the place of the tree that's cut. So it's not just a haphazard cutting down of the tree. And also from the less sacred trees, Hindus do use wood. I mean, they build with wood, they make furniture from wood and other necessities, but they don't use the most sacred of the trees. And even then, they show respect for the trees that are being used. They show gratitude to the trees by only using them to create important objects. And I don't know much about Hinduism, but based on what I've learned about just their treatment of trees, it's like spurring me on. I really want to learn more about the Hindu faith. Sounds pretty cool, actually.
Very cool. I love the connection. Yeah. I mean, the three main gods that you mentioned are very Trinitarian sounding, right? That they play similar roles as the Christian Trinity. And the Savior God, it has a connection to this fig tree. And so did Jesus have a connection to fig trees. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. There must be something to fig trees. Yeah. I also love that the tree moves without much breeze at all. And I've heard that when you look at a tree, if there's just like a couple branches, like a couple leaves waving in the wind, that's the tree saying hi to you.
I've seen that so many times. It's just like a leaf.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm trying to think of a scientific reason for it.
Right. We saw it when we walked through the waterfalls on Friday. There was one tree way up high that was just waving away at us, just two little leaves waving away. And we were like, hi, tree. It was so precious to see. And right, maybe there's a reason, but we can make meaning of it, right? That's our job. Thank you, Barb. Lovely.
I like the idea of asking for forgiveness with trees.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of native cultures do that. Before harvesting anything and before the hunt, they would give thanks and ask. Yeah. Very cool.
Okay. Now we have our poem. Hi, I'm Dolly. And our poem today is The Sycamore by Wendell Berry. In the place that is my own place, whose earth I am shaped in and must bear, there is an old tree growing, a great sycamore that is a wondrous healer of itself. Fences have been tied to it, nails driven into it, hacks and whittles cut in it. The lightning has burned it. There is no year it has flourished in that has not harmed it. There is a hollow in it that is its death, though its living brims whitely at the lip of the darkness and flows outward. Over all its scars has come the seamless white of the bark. It bears the gnarls of its history healed over. It has risen to a strange perfection in the warp and bending of its long growth. It has gathered all accidents into its purpose. It has become the intention and radiance of its dark fate. It is a fact, sublime, mystical, and unassailable. In all the country there is no other like it. I recognize in it a principle, an indwelling the same as itself, and greater, that I would be ruled by. I see that it stands in its place and feeds upon it, and is fed upon, and is native and maker.
Hello, my name is Bill. Our wisdom today comes from John Muir's book, The Mountains of California, from 1894. And he's describing the grandeur of Yosemite Valley. When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. One fancies a heart like our own must be beating in every crystal and cell, and we feel like stopping to speak to the plants and animals as friendly fellow mountaineers. Even the rocks seem talkative, sympathetic, brotherly. No wonder when we consider that we all have the same father and mother and are all subject to the same law of love. A few minutes ago, every tree was excited, bowing to the roaring storm, waving, swirling, tossing their branches in glorious enthusiasm like worship. But though to the outer ear, these trees are now silent, their songs never cease. Every hidden cell is throbbing with music and life. Every fiber is thrilling like heartstrings, while incense is ever flowing from the balsam bells and leaves. No wonder the hills and groves were God's first temples, and the more they are cut down and hewn into cathedrals and churches, the farther off and dimmer seems the Lord. So we will say our prayers here and sleep with our Mother Earth, and the God of the mountains will never fail us. Join me in the response to the wisdom in the program. The forest of trees was God's first cathedral. May we always seek divine presence beneath the tree.
Thank you. Yes, and a note on John Muir. There are some folks who I heard a few years ago that he was kind of on the canceled list, like he said some ignorant things about Native Americans. But I was really relieved to learn this year that he came around, that he spent time with tribes out west and repented for his ignorance. And that part sometimes gets left out, that he's on a list of like people who are no good, that we shouldn't read from them anymore or quote them anymore. But the good things that he did later say about them and how they taught him about the earth are left off sometimes. So I was really relieved to learn that he is a changed man. He showed growth in his life. And of course, he was from a different time. where that was more acceptable, but he did. He grew and repented and made, there are quotes of him saying, yeah, I was wrong about this, and I've learned a lot, and they've showed me many wonderful things about the wilderness. So I'm glad that we can still count John Muir, and yes, we should totally saint him because he says incredible things, and we actually have his quote on our website where he says, I'd rather be in the mountains thinking about God than in church thinking about the mountains. And we say, why not do both? So thank you, John Muir, and we're glad that you showed growth in your life. And glad for such great wisdom on trees, how alive they are and how they connect us to our Creator. We're spending the whole month, right? We're getting through all of the great tree facts. Our trees are our plant ancestors. They've been here for eons before we showed up on the planet, and they are wise guides on how to be earthlings. And they have learned, I think, in that time, how to be really good neighbors. And they are great examples for us as we strive to love our neighbors as ourselves, so that we can be ourselves, share freely our gifts, and it benefits everyone around, just as the trees show us. And last week we talked about maybe the greatest lesson for us is survival of the connected group, that our connections to each other are the most important thing to help us thrive on planet Earth. And not just connections to things of our own species, right? The trees, yes, are connected all underground to each other and share resources and information back and forth through a neural network of mycelia fungi, similar to how our brains share information through our body, through the nervous system. But there's also benefits to being connected to other species. We breathe in their oxygen and they breathe in our carbon dioxide. So it really is beneficial to lean into our connections and to use them to share the information and resources willingly, freely. So this week, we are moving now towards the more spiritual connection that trees bring us. The connection to the divine that we've seen across humanity. For centuries, humans have understood trees as conduits for the divine. Before tents and temples and shrines and synagogues, we had trees under which to worship. And as Muir pointed out, those groves were God's first temples. The temples that God built are these groves of trees on the mountainside, or, right here, our little grove. Throughout time and across the planet, trees have been revered as sacred. And we heard some of this from Hinduism, the banyan and the sacred fig, in Buddhism and Jainism as well, all related faiths in that part of the world. And then, of course, we have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil from Judaism. And Christianity, of course, also includes that story in the Bible. And then Christians have the tree of life in Revelation, which is this tree that has a different fruit every month of the year, and its leaves provide healing for the nations. That's towards the end. That's in the city of God. The river runs down the middle of the main street, and the tree of life is planted on either side of the river, it says. So this is a weird image, right? It might be one of those trees that has roots that spread across the river, and then it produces fruit in of 12 different kinds for every moon in every season, and its leaves are healing of the nations. And then we have, yes, trees have been said to be homes for spirits, especially in Germanic and Celtic spirituality, where they practiced rituals in sacred groves, especially groves of oak were really prominent. It's sort of like whatever part of the world you live in, whatever really big, majestic, or interesting different tree, you know, that's what you're going to be drawn to feel that. I think, well, we talked about maple, right? The maple is the leader of the trees for the Haudenosaunee tribes, and oaks as well. We also have oaks. The ash was also important to Native Americans. The Egyptian Book of the Dead mentions sycamores as part of the scenery where the soul of the deceased finds blissful repose. There will be sycamores in their version of the afterlife. And actually, the term tree hugger has spiritual connection. In 1730, Amitra Devi, a Bishnoi woman in the north of India, so they were a sect of Hinduism, their faith respected the sanctity and sacredness of all forms of life, and they worshipped the Khejri tree and saw it as this critical life force in the desert area that they lived in the north of India. And so the story goes that the king at that time sent soldiers up there to cut down these trees in order to build a new palace. And the soldiers began cutting these sacred trees, and Amitra ran to stop them and grabbed a hold of the tree, clung to it. And the soldiers beat her and killed her. And her 3 daughters saw this happening, and they too went and grabbed onto trees. They were also killed, but word spread, and soon the village, everyone from the village started running out, grabbing hold of trees in nonviolent protest. But the soldiers, right, they were just following orders. They continued mercilessly killing young and old. Nearly 363 Bishnoi were martyred, protecting their sacred grove. But then when the king heard about this carnage, he was repentant and forbade any more killing or cutting down of trees in that territory, and still to this day it remains a protected area. I cannot imagine being willing to sacrifice my life for a tree. Part of me kind of wishes I could do that, but I don't think in the moment I would be ready to at this point. But it just makes you realize these trees were whole. I mean, they were martyred for their holy trees, right? But this movement continued. They saw a resurgence in the 70s in India, where women were gathering around trees, protecting them from deforestation. And then, I don't know if anyone remembers, in the 90s, the woman who climbed a redwood and lived there for like 3 years. Her name is Julia Butterfly Hill. She's a pastor's kid who somehow, they were trying to protect these trees, and it was like down to the last minute. And so she was like, I'll climb it. And then all of a sudden she ended up being there for 3 years. Fighting the fight to save these redwoods. And they would send things up, and she had this little platform, but she's got a whole book about that experience, and read it if you're interested, but it's really cool. So the one culture I mentioned that's really connected to trees are the Celts, the Celtic spirituality. They're spiritual leaders, druids. The word druid, scholars assume it means oak knower. And the root word for the word door comes from oak. So it's really seen as this opening to another realm. this opening to greater wisdom. So the Celts would always build their village around a great mother oak. They would find the largest oak, and this, right before the science now tells us, yes, there are mother trees that send their information and nutrients and care for all the others around them. They would identify this. They could see the one big tree in the middle of all the others, and so they would build their villages around the great mother oak and hold all their festivals and rituals there. And the great mother oak, in their mythology, is said to have been the one to bring humans fire. Oaks are prone to being struck by lightning. And so they remembered this, that the first humans were able to take a burning limb from an oak and then continue having fire to live around, to cook their food and to warm them. So they're very important, and they saw them as caring for the whole forest community of which they were a part, right? And what I really love about this, especially, is because there was a cross-cultural time, right, when Christianity came to Northern Europe and met the Celts. And in some cases, the Christian missionaries really did it right. They did it well. And they came first to observe what the Celts were doing. And they would gather around a tree, and at the solstice, they would hang fruits and different things in the tree, just like we now do at Christmas, right? So we've actually borrowed that tradition from the Celts. And they saw the veneration of this tree and how important it was to them. And Christians realized, that's similar to our devotion to the cross and how we, venerate that wooden thing, right? And so it was at this period of time that the shape of the Christian cross actually changed. Originally, the Christian cross was more like a plus sign. It's often called a Jerusalem cross, where all sides are equal. It's just a plus sign. But after encountering the Celts, they decided to elongate the bottom bar of the cross to be more like a tree, to be more welcoming of them, to join in their understanding of Jesus.
We use tree language for the cross. He was hung upon the tree.
Right. Yes.
On the cross.
Yeah. Right. So they made that connection between Jesus' self-sacrifice and the wood of the cross, the sacrifice of the tree to make that cross. So there are so many connections we can find across history, across cultures and faiths. I'm curious for us today, what is it about trees that helps you feel a connection to God or a presence with the divine? Yeah. It really is a soothing color. They say, the color green does soothe our nervous system.
They bring peace to me.
They don't make noise. Yeah.
I don't know, yesterday. They make some noise.
Yeah, the
It's like white noise. Yeah.
just amazing.
Yeah.
Cats don't usually last a long time.
Yeah.
They're stable.
They're stable. Yeah, they live a long time.
Yeah, look at your, I just think of the permanence.
Mm-hmm.
And they're rising up to the heavens.
Yeah. Yeah, they have us look heavenward, right?
think
Yeah.
of like when you cut down trees, like the rings, and like you can see how long the trees are around for. Like when I'm at museums and they say like each ring, they're like, this is when this historic event happened. Like there's like witness trees, like or at like historic places, like trees that have witnessed different history, and like they are not like a conscious being, but like they were there.
But are they a conscious being? I mean, science is leaning towards consciousness of trees. Yeah, right.
It's like I touch them and my whole nervous system calms down. It's like I can hear them speak almost.
Yeah.
It'd be like if you're quiet now.
Uh-huh.
Homes.
Yeah. They're homes. Some of these big giant trees they just hold so much life within and on them.
Even a dead tree.
Yeah.
Especially. Because that old dragon tree down at home has squirrels and chipmunks that live there, a raccoon family lives there, it has hawks and any number of woodpeckers living in all these various
And all the bugs and all the microorganisms, right?
Just say it boils down to like the bacteria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and it's dead, but it's full of life.
For me, recently, I've been really struck by the roots of a tree. And I had to look it up. I knew that, like, and it's true, we only see a third of the tree. 2/3. So 2 times of what we see is underground.
That's insane.
Right. I can't even, it's hard to even imagine that. Yeah, like an iceberg. But it doesn't necessarily go, they don't all go down, they more go out. Right? So,
Beyond where the leaves
yes, yeah. So the roots are incredible, and that we don't even see them. We're not aware of them, but there are more of them than of the tree that we do see. And as I've been spending more time with trees, listening to trees this year, I had this realization. And I wrote something to the trees. So I'm going to read it to you. So this is to the trees. You have so many perspectives, simultaneous and constant. You live in 2 worlds, the light and the dark. You soar above us, dance on the breeze, and slither deep, all at the same time. This must be why your presence is so sacred, because you are connected to both worlds. You exist in yin and yang. And you know these 2 worlds in every moment. We know darkness at the start, right? We start in the dark of a womb, like a seed in the earth. But as you stretch steadily up and down in all directions, we are pushed into the world of light. I believe this is why aliens will speak first to the trees. And it's why we feel such peace beneath you, because you know this world in all its darkness and light, like the Creator. You know us so well. You have witnessed us, and you're still here, giving us breath and life, simply asking us to listen, stretching to the heavens on our behalf. And so my hope for us is that we may continue to find God in the trees and to listen well to their sacred and practical wisdom. May it be so.
Close your eyes gently if you haven't already, and if you feel comfortable doing so. And take 3 slow, deep breaths in and out. Now bring your awareness to the air entering your lungs. This air is a gift that the trees have given freely, filling the atmosphere with oxygen and the very breath of life. As you inhale, imagine you are breathing in not only oxygen, but also the breath of the Spirit and the divine breathing life into you. Pause for a moment at the top of the breath. And as you exhale, imagine returning your breath as an offering. Carbon dioxide flowing back into the trees, where it is transformed into life again. A perfect circle of giving and receiving. Continue breathing slowly. Breathing in the gift of life from the trees, and breathing out your gift received by creation. Notice how the breath is shared between you, the trees, and the divine. The same breath that flows through the leaves flows through your lungs. The same Spirit that gives life to creation is filling you right now. Trees are the living bridges between the seen and the unseen. With their roots deep in the soil, they anchor into the heartbeat of the earth, drinking in water, minerals, and energy from below. Their roots form vast underground networks connecting not only to the soil but also to one another, sharing nutrients, warning of danger, and sustaining life beyond themselves. In this way, trees mirror that way we too are held and supported by the earth, connected to all life in ways often hidden from the eye. The trunk rises steady and strong, carrying the nourishment upward. The trunk is the meeting point of the earth and sky, a living channel where groundness and aspiration meet. It's no wonder that so many cultures have seen trees as sacred symbols, pillars that link our human lives to the divine order of creation. Above, the branches and leaves stretch out like open arms, receiving sunlight, rain, and wind from the heavens. Just as roots draw in life from below, the branches drink in light from above, turning it into energy through the quiet miracle of photosynthesis. This rhythm, roots below, branches above, trunk in between, is a reflection of our own nature. We are both grounded beings and spiritual beings, nourished by the earth and reaching for heaven. When we stand beneath a tree, we're reminded of this balance. Trees teach us that to reach for the heavens, we must also be firmly rooted. To grow in spirit, we must stay connected to the earth that sustains us. They embody wholeness, drawing from below and above, offering breath and shelter, silently showing us how heaven and earth are already one within them and within us. you could come back to center and open your eyes. The trees really did their thing there. You heard that? When they was like, I had to be quiet. I was like, wait a second. All of a sudden, it was like this perfect flow of wind. It was amazing.
Thanks for listening. If you want to support Church in the Wild and the work we do striving for environmental and social justice, you can head on over to our website, churchinthewild.org/support, or you can click on the donation page link. There you can make a donation, set yourself up to be a recurring supporter, or you can buy something from our Redbubble shop. We're so glad you're with us on this journey, following the Spirit through creation, adventure, and restoration. Until next time.